Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for jumping on this Zoom with me today. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Glad to be here.
Good. I'm happy to have you. So I wanted to sit down and talk with you a little bit today as a response to our Be the Change campaign. You're a member of the community. You're very active. You're a business owner and someone who I know a lot of people look to and whatnot. So I thought it would be amazing to get your perspective on, what's going on in the world right now and how each of us individually are making changes through our everyday life. Honestly, I know that I'm sure people, whether it's your employees or people in your circle, have come to you and, kind of looked for guidance or ways that they can help, be a catalyst for change right now. Can you tell me a little bit about what your response has been to that?
Well, I tell people that you need to be open-minded right now, and you need to have some empathy for other people. People are going through some very difficult times now, and while you think your problems are rough, people are having more difficult times. So be thankful for where we are, and do your best to be a good community and citizen person out here.
Yeah. And what about things that you incorporate into your day-to-day life to change the landscape, of hatred and racism?
Yeah, I hear that slogan that Black Lives Matter, and I like to put a conjunction on it. I like to say Black Lives Matter because we're human beings as well. And I think when you see people like George Floyd and the young lady Breonna who got shot, you should think of those people as human beings. You shouldn't think of them as just property or chattel or things of that nature. And I think if you look at everybody as a human being, you wouldn't want to be treated that way. So I try to uh, act as if somebody was treating me that way, how would I feel? And try to govern myself accordingly and tell people to do the same.
Yeah, the Black Lives Matter movement, it has a lot of national and, worldwide global attention right now, but it's not something that's very, very new. So right now we're hearing about Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, but do you think that they are the true catalysts, that their deaths have been the catalyst behind, this new movement, or do you associate the Black Lives Matter and the times that we're in now with anything that preceded this?
Well, I think it's a snowball effect. I think that you said you talk to your mother, you talk to your aunts and uncles who are older than you, and they say it's one thing to say I'm tired, but when people say I'm tired of, and I think people got tired of the stuff that was going on, and I think the George Floyd thing was just so demonstrative that people just said it's time to do something. But I think what we're doing is we have a movement, but it needs to have some meat on the bones. I hear people talking about what the movement is, but I would like to see, and maybe to your point and to Renee's points and Singleton and Partner's point, is that what are you going to do?
Mhm.
And oftentimes we talk about what we want and all that, but there's no cohesive plan that says what do we want? Do we want criminal justice reform? What does
Right.
that mean? Do we want some laws to change? Do we want some hate crimes to be passed? Do we want people to be penalized in such a way that it's a detriment to be treating minorities in a certain way? And I don't, that we're talking, but I don't think we understand the process to get laws changed and how
Mhm.
you need a lobbyist to go down state or go down to the federal government to get that done for you. So I think some of that needs to be more cohesive. But I think we have a great movement going on, and it's probably more impactful than it's ever been right now.
I think that I agree it's very much more impactful than it has been, but we need leaders and we need them to come together. I see people like Sean King on, Instagram and Twitter and different activists in different cities and states, but it seems like not that everyone has their own agenda, but though the agenda may be the same, the means to the end isn't. And so it's kind of like all these different fights that are going on. And don't you think it would just be better if we could get some leadership to kind of combine and work towards that together?
Yeah, I think so. It's unfortunate that we don't have a Martin Luther King kind of figure anymore. I think the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons have matured, and we need to. You'll love to hear me say this, but I think the young millennials can provide some leadership on this. And although I'm mature, I think the young millennials need to get involved because they have the ability to do messaging and use social media to the max.
Mhm.
But I think it's a combination of the pastoral community getting together with the community activists, with the young people. I think we need an Obsidian group. And if you understand an Obsidian group, it's a combination of people who bring various skills to the table because nobody has all of the skill sets. But you need one or two good people to take the lead and get it done. And unfortunately, we struggle with that now.
Yeah.
The example you give is when Atlanta was falling apart, the mayor was able to go get T.I. to stop things because people respected him. But we need more people like that all around the nation who can come together, who are respected, and people will listen to them and get something done. And so you and I need to do something probably, but I don't know if they'll listen to us, but if they did, maybe we can get something done. I don't know.
I think they would. It's funny that you think that. I'm very pleased to hear you mention millennials in a non-sarcastic light. But, you know, there's a story actually in New York right now. There's a woman by the name of Jennifer who lives on a street, like a racist block, and her neighbors have been harassing her and kind of like trying to push her out of the neighborhood. And there's a young guy named Flo who initially started it. He would say protecting Black women, and he's been camping out outside of her house. And from that, and from his tweets and his Instagram posts, it turned into an avalanche of people coming and pouring in support, whether it was physically being there or sending things. So, and not just millennials, you know, so it does start with, you know, maybe the millennials utilizing our social media presence and, you know, just that direct contact and, you know, way of disseminating information and news. But coming together, I think that unity really is the most important thing right now.
Yeah, the other thing that's interesting about what we have going on now is you find a lot of the majority population participating. And one of the things I tell people is this contributory negligence to the issues that we have. I think as minorities, we create some challenges ourselves. We have to admit that. And I think that the majority population has created some challenges. And I think the only way to solve that is that we all work together in a seamless fashion such that the majority population says, okay, we're willing to listen. We have to also listen to their side of the story too, because I think they have a perspective as well. And so oftentimes we as African Americans want to get in a room by ourselves and come up with an answer and then go to the majority population to talk about what they have to do to fund that solution set. And quite frankly, that's offensive to the majority population, because if you want my money, I need to be part of the solution set. Not that I have to tell you what to do, but at least I want to be part of the design and the build of solution, as opposed to you designed it and you want me to help build it with my resources. That's a challenge for the majority population.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective, one that I actually have not heard yet. So
because you're a young millennial, that's why the mature guys have to bring the blended perspective to you all.
Well, I know that as a business owner, you do a lot that you should be proud of, from hiring ex-cons and things like that. What is it that you would say you're most proud of as far as things that you do as a business owner, or, you know, just as Andrew Jackson, to help, you know, like catalyze this change?
Well, you know, I grew up in some very humble beginnings. My mom and dad were domestic workers. My dad parked cars for a living and my mom cleaned offices for a living. And one thing that they always told me is that never forget where you came from, and that you should get enough education that people don't look down on you, but don't get so high up in the air that you look down on other people. Okay. And that's very important. So I think that if there's one thing that I think is important, is that you have to have respect for the individual and know that everybody wants to be treated with respect. And so the core of our company, I have two companies. One is called Mac Installations, which is a low voltage teledata company, and another company called Elson's International, which does corrugated boxes. But we start with respect for the individual. And when you have that, you know that everybody wants to make a decent wage. They want to have benefits. They want to come to work and be treated with respect. And they also want to go home and tell their kids that, you know, they work somewhere that they're happy to work at and they enjoy going to work. So that drives our culture at our institutions that I have. And one of the things that we do have, which you mentioned, is we have an ex-offender program. I come from humble beginnings, and I grew up with 10 buddies, and 8 of them probably have gone to jail. And I was probably a fork in the road from not going myself. You know, when you're young and you're out there doing things, it's easy to go the wrong way and not be able to come back from that. But in my ear, I can hear my mother say, "I cannot believe that you have me down at this police station." And so I would not do it. But I know why people do things. So I consider myself a have and a have not. I have not had before and I have now. And so you can't forget that. And so the ex-offender program is a very important program for us, because it gives people who have made a mistake, paid their debt to society, and want to come back and be a reentry citizen. And so I'm involved in a lot of efforts to help those people to get back to work. In addition to that, I think that it's a saying, but you can make money and still do good. Some people put profits before people, but we try to, they're not on an equal scale because you got to be profitable. You have to do, in order to do good, you have to do well. So I respect that. But I think that you can sacrifice some profits and at the same time do good for people. And so we try to make sure that the ex-offenders there have healthcare, good healthcare plan. We give them a 401k plan. We give them a bonus program. We even give them a life insurance policy because oftentimes you see minorities who are having to go do GoFundMes when people pass away in their families and they got to try to scrap that money up. And that's not the time while you're grieving to try to find out where the money is to bury somebody. So we try to do all those things. And in return, what I ask the employees to do is appreciate what we do and have some respect for the fact that we don't, it's not a given. It's not a right. It's a privilege for the things that we do over and above what the typical employer might do. We're proud of that, though. So I have about 25 guys, and maybe half of those guys are ex-offenders. And the amazing part about it, if you go in our plant, you can't tell an ex-offender from a non-offender. Right. You might pick a non-offender and think he's an offender because you just can't tell. And we're proud of that. So that's my answer now.
I love that. I'm proud to have a relationship with you and to, be able to call on you for things like this because your perspective is very important. You've just enlightened me in this short conversation. So I'm sure everyone who's going to watch this video will be able to take away some great, some great tips from this, as well as, there are a lot of young entrepreneurs and business owners, and from taking, your protocols and the things that you do from your employer for your employees, that's a way to make a change, right? So it's so many ways to fix this thing, to fix these issues that we're facing right now. So thank you for not only this conversation, but for the things that you genuinely do every day.
I appreciate that. I want to send a shout out to Renee Singleton from the Work Labs and you all for, I'm sitting in a beautiful facility. I am proud of what you all have done as African Americans in our community. And this is a place, if you haven't been here, you should come check it out. You can put the shout out and the address and all that, but it's a wonderful place. Glad to be here. And I feel like a start out here. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
All right.